All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really exciting step-by-step journey into something that is literally transforming how we work every single day. We are talking about mastering artificial intelligence as a highly practical, everyday tool while expertly dodging all of its hidden pitfalls. So if you're just starting out with AI, or maybe you've tinkered with it a bit but still feel kind of unsure about the rules of the road, you are in exactly the right place. Think of this as your absolute essential survival guide to the modern AI workplace. Whether you're just trying to write a tricky daily email or you're drafting a massive high-stakes client proposal. Let's get into it. Now, I have to ask, are you ready to hand over your most critical professional decisions to an algorithm? Well, probably not, right? The absolute best way to think about AI right now is to imagine a hyper-eager intern. This intern is incredibly helpful, insanely fast, and ready to tackle absolutely any daily task you throw at them. Let's say you're drafting that big client project proposal we just mentioned. Your new AI intern can crank out a complete draft in seconds. But they don't know your business's nuances, they definitely don't know your client's specific quirks, and if you leave that intern completely unsupervised, the results could be absolutely disastrous. It is entirely up to you to be the manager.
Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, Setting Ethical Boundaries and What We Cannot Ask AI to Do.
Now, we really need to slow down here for a second because to be a good manager to our AI intern, we have to draw some very firm lines. On one hand, we have fully automated tasks. If you just need your AI intern to organize a messy list of data for your client proposal, that's perfect. It's a low-risk task. But on the other hand, we have decisions that require actual human empathy. Think about things like hiring decisions, granting parole, or approving a line of credit for a client. Decisions involving sensitive human context or confidentiality should never, ever be fully automated. And the reason is pretty simple. AI is trained on vast amounts of historical data, which means it unfortunately inherits historical human flaws and biases. When a choice is significant and life-altering, it absolutely requires human empathy, human oversight, and a crystal clear chain of human responsibility.
And beyond those massive life decisions, we also have to establish really strict rules about everyday unethical manipulations. Look, AI produces incredibly convincing content. That makes it a powerful tool, sure, but also a very tempting one to misuse. Imagine you're working on that client proposal, the deadline is looming, and you desperately need a great past client testimonial to make your pitch shine. It is so tempting to just ask your AI in turn to invent a glowing review, right? But that is a hard, non-negotiable boundary. You simply cannot use AI to invent false information, imitate a real person to deceive others, generate fake testimonials, or create harmful content. It's also completely off limits for bypassing regulations, creating false documents, or retrieving sensitive protected data. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 2, a practical AI workflow for drafting your professional document.
All right, now that we've set our boundaries, we can actually start the fun part, collaborating with our AI intern to get this proposal written. But here's the catch. If you sit down and just type write a proposal for a client, you are going to get a generic, fairly useless document. Vague prompts lead directly to vague responses. Instead, you have to actively guide the AI. You need to provide clear context, specific constraints, and a logical structure. Tell it exactly what tone and style you need. So instead of just write a proposal, you actually need to tell it, write a 500-word proposal for a corporate client in the healthcare space using a professional but forward-thinking tone structured with 3 main bullet points. See the difference? By structuring your request clearly, you give the intern exactly what they need to give you a precise, tailored response. And once you hit enter on that beautifully detailed prompt, the workflow really picks up speed. True collaboration with AI is a highly iterative process. First, the AI gives you an initial draft. Second, you make an adjustment. You read it and say, hey, make the introduction punchier and cut out that corporate jargon. Third, the AI hands you an improved version based on your rapid feedback. And finally, fourth, you reach finalization. Let me tell you, asking, correcting, and refining in this loop is the absolute best way to get a phenomenal result. It literally turns an hours-long writing session into like a 15-minute conversation. Which brings us to Section 3, catching AI hallucinations, which is the absolutely crucial fact-check phase. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we need to talk about a very specific, incredibly important phenomenon called hallucination. In the AI world, hallucination is when a large language model produces plausible but completely false facts. Remember, your AI is a hyper-eager intern. It wants to give you an answer, and it wants to please you so badly that if it doesn't actually know the real answer, it will confidently just make things up.
It isn't just making a typo. It is stringing together beautifully written sentences that are entirely fictional, but sound incredibly convincing. And because of this tendency to hallucinate, you have a non-negotiable duty as the manager here. You must systematically cross-reference critical data, dates, and citations with reliable primary sources. Let's say your newly drafted proposal includes this perfect, highly persuasive industry statistic about healthcare growth. Well, before you celebrate, you have to verify that statistic yourself. Seriously, ask yourself, if you present a totally false statistic to a crucial client, who takes the blame, the AI or you? Yeah, it's you. You can never ever let the AI replace your own professional verification obligations. All right, Section 4, the human responsibility, where we're finalizing and publishing our work. So our client proposal is now beautifully drafted, it's refined through iteration, and we've rigorously fact-checked it. But when you finally hand that proposal over to your boss or your client, you have one last ethical obligation, and that is transparency. Transparency is the absolute bedrock of professional trust. It is highly recommended to clearly label any work where the AI assistant was utilized. You should state upfront if the initial market research notes were generated automatically or if the text drafting was assisted by AI. Being open about your use of these tools shows that you're resourceful, sure, but more importantly, that you're honest. Professional trust takes years to build, but it can be broken in a second if someone feels misled. And this brilliantly illustrates how finding true success with this technology comes down to a clear division of labor. Just look at this breakdown. On one hand, AI excels at supporting your reflection, saving you massive amounts of time on first drafts, structuring messy information, and proposing fresh ideas to get you unstuck. But on the exact opposite hand, it absolutely cannot replace your hard-earned expertise, it cannot replace your human judgment, and it certainly cannot assume legal or professional responsibility for the final product. Understanding this division right here is exactly how we ensure a healthy, highly productive use of AI.
So the crucial point is captured beautifully in this quote. Artificial intelligence complements humans, but it does not replace them. AI enhances your capabilities and dramatically speeds up your workflow when you use it intentionally. But if you use it passively, it just creates errors, confusion, and massive professional risks. The ultimate legal and professional responsibility for the final result, whether it's just a quick internal memo or a $1 million client pitch, always rests firmly on your shoulders. Your human touch, your empathy, and your judgment are entirely irreplaceable. Which brings us to our final question for you to ponder today. Are you treating AI as an eager assistant, or are you accidentally letting it take over your professional responsibilities? As you go back to your desk to write your next email, report, or that big project proposal, please keep that intern analogy in mind. Be the manager. Guide the process with clear constraints, ruthlessly fact-check the output, and proudly own your final result. You now have the exact practical steps to do this safely and efficiently. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time.